UN should investigate Hamas's rockets, not the alleged war crimes by Israel?
Look, I think that they have, I mean, everybody was talking about the rockets, and I think that let me ask you, you know the city of Sderot, right? You are familiar with this. Do you know Bani Suhela? Have you ever mentioned in your program the village Bani Suhela? How many people know about Bet Hanun? How many people know about Abbasan? All this, how many people knew about Zaytun? All these Palestinian neighborhoods and villages which were victim of Israeli attacks. We only know about Sderot.
Well, it's interesting. Journalists could get to Sderot. The Israeli military let them get to Sderot, but not to Gaza.
Exactly, and not to Abbasan, and not to sea, and not to, yeah. So it's a chutzpah. I mean, really, it's even tiring to discuss it. So everybody knows about the rockets, Hamas rockets. On the contrary, people had the impression that the whole thing, that history started with the rockets, that the history of Israeli-Palestinian conflict started with the rockets, which is, of course, which doesn't mean, you know, there is a lot of criticism, internal criticism within the Palestinian society about the rockets, the use of rockets. It's obvious that rockets did not liberate Gaza, did not liberate Palestine, and they caused more harm to the Palestinians than they even caused to the Israelis. I asked once two activists of Azadin al-Qassam, of the Hamas armed wing, I asked them, why do you do that? I mean, it was back in 2003, 2004. And they told me, we want to teach the Israelis a lesson. We want them to be afraid just as we are. Just as, not we, but just as our women and children are afraid. This was very interesting. So it is a competition about who can instill more fear. I asked this time when I was in Gaza, I asked an activist in the Islamic Jihad. I said, so who is more afraid, you or the Israelis? And he admitted that in this competition over fear, also the Palestinians are the losers.
Amira Haas, there's an article in the New York Times that says, according to newly disclosed data, about 58,800 housing units have been built with government approval in the West Bank over the last 40 years. An additional 46,500 have already obtained Defense Ministry approval within the existing master plans, awaiting nothing more than a government decision to build. We're talking about a doubling, almost, of the settlements in the West Bank.
Yeah.
This, as Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu says, there will be no new Jewish settlements in the occupied West Bank, and illegal outposts there will be dismantled.
Look, all settlement is illegal. So when we use the term illegal outposts, it's misleading. It's unauthorized illegal settlements, while you have the authorized illegal settlements. This is the real distinction. And the real problem is not these outposts. They are tiny. Most of them are tiny, and they just distract our attention from the real construction. Yeah, this has been Israeli success, and this is, by the way, one of the things that I ask the Palestinians have, and that's the problem. Neither the Palestinian so-called armed struggle, I call it symbolic armed struggle, and suicide and terrorist attacks, both guerrilla attacks and terror attacks against civilians, both this and Israel and Palestinian negotiation strategy have not stopped the settlements. On the contrary, the settlements grew in parallel, in tandem with the Oslo process and with the process of negotiations. So actually Israel, you know, I asked once a Peace Now activist, it was in 95 or so, I asked him, why did you drop the slogan that you had before 91 or no, before 93? The slogan of no peace with these settlements. And he said, if the Palestinians accept the settlements, actually, if Abu Mazen accepted some settlements, who are we to oppose him or to say differently? It's true that with the Oslo agreement, Palestinians gave the impression that they could live with the settlements. And then you had the Geneva talks or whatever, not talks, but the convention of some groups that accepted the existence of two major settlements, Ma'ale Adumim and Givat Ze'ev. So indeed, the Palestinians gave an impression that they would tolerate the settlements. And some Palestinians, not all, of course. Others say that it's too late now to dismantle the settlements. So actually, it is any solution which is based on the two states is obsolete.
Your evaluation assessment of President Obama so far on the Israel-Palestine conflict as he heads now to the Middle East, first to Saudi Arabia, then to Egypt.
It's
and then to the book-involved concentration camp.
My evaluation, so far I see more hope than invested in him, than I see real inclinations to pressure Israel. I mean, all the statements that were said so far are encouraging in the sense that he understands, or his administration understands that there must be a way out of this deadlock, but there must be measures taken, such as freeze of sales of arms to Israel, freeze or stoppage of all support, financial support of Israeli, as long as it continues to build in the settlements. So these things are yet to be seen.
Amira Haas, I hope this is part one of our conversation this week, that when you come back to New York City, you'll be with us later in the week, because I particularly also want to talk about your mother's book that's out posthumously, Diary of Bergen-Belsen, as President Obama visits a concentration camp as well. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. Our guest, Amira Haas, columnist for Haaretz newspaper, renowned Israeli journalist. Our website, democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks so much for joining us.